why don't you take us back to the beginning and tell the listeners who you are, what you do, and what's your story.
Hey, everybody. My name is Joe Church. I'm from Arkansas. I'm the owner of N.W.A. Corsos. I guess my first relationship with dogs is, like most of us, staying in the inner city. Neighborhood probably wasn't the best, but, it was still a lot of family, still a lot of love, still a lot of, fathers around. But a dog was, as things began to change, a dog was always necessary as alert. Yeah. So that's always been our first, and still to the day, my main reason for having a dog, I need to be alerted. I need to know what's going on. And most times it's your first line of defense. And, as time went along, I've had periods where I hadn't had dogs. You might be living in an apartment and, got married, starting to settle down. I have a cousin that's a pretty humongous breeder in the South who bred Corso still to this day, La Potenza, Corso. And, he always had those dogs down through the years. We'll see him. I see him over my cousin's house. I had one 20 years ago. And things, it was much different back then. But then within the recent years, when I moved and got resettled, I kind of moved, started over, got married, had kids, and, got into the dogs more serious. And here we are today. But everything started through La Potenza, Corso.
I gotcha. So when it comes to your Corsos, are they more the American type, more the Italian type, or somewhere in between?
I would say somewhere in between.
Okay.
They are of the work. I have the working style, and I have the style that is more so as show. Mm-hmm. I have like several of each. But yeah, I have the La Potenza line. They're strictly working dogs, and then I had another friend of mine named Tony Scandy. He's huge in the breed, and I have his dogs too. Really smart dogs, really great family dogs and things like that. But I run two different types of lines. I would say.
How many dogs do you have on your property now?
You can catch me with 7 to 10 dogs. I'm set up for about 10 dogs. Right now I got 7. Mm-hmm. But that's also Central Asian Shepherds.
So tell me more. Tell me more about the Central Asian Shepherd.
So the Central Asian Shepherd is a dog that's starting to get popular over in America because of its versatility. It's a great guard dog. It's a herding dog, just all around, great for homesteads, farms. One of the number one questions people will ask, how are they with heat? They'll blow that coat down to where you wouldn't believe. And just deep shade is all they need. And, in the wintertime, the weird thing about this, I'll put it this way. If you let a Corso and a Shepherd out, Central Asian Shepherd out in the woods together, I'll put my money on that Shepherd to have a better survival rate. Because his coat is like some kind of waterproof deal. They don't like to be hot per se as far as in the wintertime. A lot of people think you want to bring them in. You bring them in the house or the garage, they start panting. Let me back out there. Let me back in. And they'll just sit in the snow. They won't even go in the house unless maybe if it's raining. They won't go in the doghouse. They're just a really different dog. Guard the sky. You think you're going to settle down at night, they get active at night. You know what I mean? And
Right.
just as temperament, the history of them, they're used for a lot of fighting.
Okay.
So,
I guess what I'll do is we'll go two ways here. First, tell me about the trainability and the temperament of your Corsos.
so that working line, temperament is just what it is. They're really active dogs. The trainability very smart as far as like having a quick mind, making good decisions, and knowing a threat against a non-threat.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, like I'll use this as an example. I'm standing off. I'm at a soccer game. My wife and child was sitting in the grass with one of my females. I'm over at the distance just checking out the kids walking up. They're petting her, ladies, and they're walking up petting her. When the man comes up, she's not gonna let it happen. No, you can't do it. My dogs have got quick minds and able to sense threats. And I know how people are about petting dogs, but I don't want the type of dog that gets loose and thinks a child is a threat. You know what I mean? You know, but yeah, they're very quick, very smart, very athletic, my Corsos. The Central Asian Shepherds, they're a little different with kids. Like your Corsos, if it's their family, the kids, they're kind of like mosey around, play with them, follow them around. Not the Shepherds. They'll watch over them. They don't want to play with them. They don't, they're just not into it for some reason.
Mm.
The temperament of the Shepherds, they could be. I'll be honest. Being at the lines that some of them come from, they could be very violent. But that's something you got to stay in control of. Because one thing I try to establish is, yeah, you can fight, but you won't be doing no fight in front of me.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, that can't happen. So, but they can be stubborn, but they're very trainable, very loving to its owners. Does not like strangers.
Mm.
They do not like strangers at all. At least the ones I got. They're not very fond of strangers at all. And they will get at them. Not just through the fence, all that bark. No, come on back here. I'm going to do the same thing. And believe me, it doesn't happen. And it's kind of, you that's at the point where you have to think, oh, God.
So,
but if you get those shepherd dogs, you better look for some spiciness.
So,
and
the comparison between the Corso and the Central Asian Shepherd, you definitely say the Central Asian Shepherd is far more violent.
Yeah, I would definitely say yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely say he's a more hardier dog when it comes to the environment. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How much?
And I would like to point out some differences though.
Sure.
In the shepherd. Now, you hear the term alibi thrown around a lot, right?
Uh-huh.
But technically, most people will call my dog an alibi. But different countries have different shepherds. Like what's that country? Kyrgyzstan. It has a dog maybe called like a Dobot. Kazakhstan has a dog called Tobet. It's their own shepherd dog. The Russians, Central Asian Shepherd. Afghanistan have a dog called Afghan Saga Kochi, something like that. And Turkmenistan is the place that's known for what is truly an alibi. So I just want to make that clear because a lot of people just kind of lump it all together when they're a lot different. in some aspects.
Okay. So, what are some of the daily activities you do with your dogs?
So basically, our routine is getting up in the morning, cleaning cages. My wife, I got to give her 100%. Who actually does more of the hands-on stuff, and she's actually a way better trainer than I am. And the difference of me going out there and her going out there and just saying, "Oh, damn, you got that hard head sucker to listen," and she just goes out there and works with them, and especially on obedience, because if you've been around any great trainer, one of the couple of the most important commands you can teach a dog is no and come here. Mm-hmm. Those two commands can save a dog's life or save somebody else's dog's life. If that dog done got an off switch, man, you got a big problem. Especially when these dogs are weighing 160, 170, you know what I mean? Agile, strong as hell, So training starts, and I got 2 yards. I got a yard behind my house. If we not walking them, we let them run, play, pair them, the right ones together, so we won't have to be dealing with no violence, and just working them out, keeping them lean, making them look good, walking them, getting the stairs, getting them to stop by. What is that? The compliments. It's fun.
So, do you deal with, whether we're talking the Corsos or the Shepherds, do you deal with a lot of dog-on-dog aggression?
I would say it's more, definitely more prevalent in the Shepherds. Okay. Same-sex aggression with the Shepherds. Of course, I got 2 Corsos that don't like each other, but they tolerate each other when I'm out with them. But if they're in heat, all hell breaking loose. But the Shepherds definitely, same-sex aggression is pretty strong. Mm. Yes, sir.
So what are some of the general weight guidelines of your dogs?
I always go by the health score. How they look, try to keep them lean as possible. But these Shepherds are, they're just not getting to be breeding age. But I got a male, he's sitting at about 160, 165, lean, tall, and strong. And my females, they're sitting about 135, 140, tall, lean, and strong. Yeah.
And what about the Corsos?
I try to stay as close to the standard. My male's 130. I got a female that's 100. I got a pretty big female. She's around 125. Yeah. So I wouldn't even know where to get these super large Corsos they got. All mine is 130. Rock solid for the males.
Right. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to the heat tolerance and cold tolerance, how hot does it get around where you're at?
Oh my God, we're in Arkansas and I'm right on the border of Missouri, so 110, very humid. And being that I'm right there on the tip of, I call it the Middle South, right under the Midwest, man, we get a lot of cold. We get down about -10. Yeah. Corso's got to come in. Shepherds can take a lot more.
Gotcha.
Yeah. For it's cold, that is. Because, they'll put on these coats, like the Pyrenees. I mean, they'll put on a heavy coat, and they do a heavy blowing of the coat. Like right now, I'm going to have to start doing some de-shedding. Yeah.
So when it comes to both breeds, how would you compare the temperament and trainability between male and female?
Mm, you know, I wouldn't say too much is different. I would say that the shepherds are maybe a little bit more stubborn.
Mm.
So I would say that the Corso is probably easier to train. But I do got a male CAS, CAS saturated shepherd that is crazy smart. I mean, he might be my smartest dog. But overall, if I had to pick, I said the Corso would probably be just a little bit more easier to train, you know.
Okay. So if you were to, I guess we'll start with the Corso here. If you were to compare the Corso's temperament to another breed, what would come close?
Hmm. Well, that's a tough one for me because I hadn't been around a lot of other breeds.
I gotcha.
Yeah. But from what I hear, trainers that have dealt with the Corso say sometimes they can be a little bit temperamental, you know. I know a guy that deals with Presser. He's like, they're a little bit more nervy than the Presser. So they're just, that's third party, being that I hadn't dealt with a lot of other breeds.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how about the Central Asian Shepherd? Would you compare them to any other breeds, like from what you hear?
Probably just some of the dogs I mentioned earlier from those the Asian countries over there, like the N.W.A. Just I heard that they all do their job for as being that country's type shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think they would probably be even related somehow, all being from over in that area, but just with different looks. But they are hell of a working dogs. They are hell of a farm dogs. I kind of got into them because of the area I live in too. I kind of wanted a more versatile dog that can be like, I can leave this sucker out. I don't have to worry about it, especially if you got some acreage. With his size, with his intelligence, with his mind. I mean, even like the sky. That shepherd, he's looking up in the sky, see if something's coming. Birds, he owns them. Vultures. He's just a lot different dog. And I got to give credit to the breeders who have helped me, that mentored me with the dog. Nemus Patrick over there in Turkmenistan, and Daniel Nash in New York. Those guys are the two most knowledgeable guys I have ever seen on the breed, and they don't walk me through a lot of things. So I got to give them their credit.
So, when it comes to breeding, how often do you usually drop a litter?
I'm usually ranging about 2 litters a year. Like I said, my shepherds they just not coming into the age, and we feel like they're worthy to do, be able to breed. So I'm not a big breeder, but I do like the art of breeding. You got people who like sporting, all kind of different events, but I do like the art of breeding and putting the dogs in the hands of people who might work them, and show and prove some stuff I can't. You know what I mean? Yeah, I am all about the science of breeding.
And when it comes to either breed, I suppose, how close do you believe in breeding? As far as inbreeding, line breeding, outcrossing, what's your formula?
Well, I believe in inbreeding as close as a brother and sister. I don't believe in the old myth that inbreeding makes diseases. I was taught that inbreeding is a tool It's not a way of doing things like guys just think, I'm going to keep inbreeding. I'm going to get this, I'm going to get this. Nah, you're messing up. Inbreeding is the best way to know everything about your dogs. Mm-hmm. Because guess what? Once you put that brother and sister together, anything that's bad in there is going to come out. Mm-hmm. You're going to see it. That's the purpose. There's going to be some wonky ones in there. It's going to be some really good ones in there. Mm. But the thing about it is knowing when to do it inbreeding, knowing when it's time, because it's used to lock in traits and it's used to show traits that you might not know that's there. Well, we got advantage now too with dogs, health testing, to know what's in the lines, knowing what you get, and then. But the most important thing is knowing when to do something, so that you'll miss what most real breeders would be worried about more than anything, which is inbreeding depression. Mm. Right, but it's I'm all for locking it in, maintenance breeding, and holding traits and things like that. I believe that's what makes a breed what it is, because you got to think about it. The best breeder that ever was Mother Nature. Mm-hmm. And if she did make a mistake, guess what? Those dogs not going to survive. If those joints weak, if they have any weaknesses that affect them in nature, they won't survive. Mm-hmm. But what she has been, and you got to think about it, that's been daughter to daddy, brother to sister, aunt to nephew. Mother Nature does it all on her own. Mm-hmm. And she's, for the most part, she's been doing a tremendous job, wouldn't you think?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So that, yeah. When you have a litter in front of you, what are some of the things you do to test for selection?
Well, I really just kind of watch them. Mm-hmm. And to me, it starts from day one. Like, you got big emphasis on the runt. Sometimes a dog is just smaller. It's not a runt to me. A runt to me is a puppy that's coming out struggling, and you got to help it. But it's some dogs that just come out smaller. And if you know your breed, you know what size he's going to get to. Like, I had somebody who bought a puppy to me. Man, that was the smallest dog. It was a runt of the litter. She's 120 pounds now. Yeah, because she's not stunted. You know what I'm saying? She's just smaller in there. But, I look at things like that, how strong, how easy was it for her to get to the tit, how tenacious they were to feed, all that. And I even got to a point to where if the puppy is struggling and if it ain't stimulation that can help the dog, without me and the mom, the dog just have to pass. Mm-hmm. That's how serious I am. I'm not putting them in no incubator and all that stuff. Only the strong will survive with me, because I'm trying to breed like Mother Nature. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going on as they get older, just seeing who's the most dominant, who's just the personality, things like that. And because you want to know those things when you place that dog. Mm-hmm. You don't want to get no old lady, a dog that super prey drive that, she ain't going to be able to, handle. You want to, or, a lady that really, that really just want a dog for, she's 115 pounds and she won't be able to handle. You got to watch those type of things. So yeah, I look at that, just behaviors of them, how they develop. And, as week by week goes along, they change. You know what I mean? The one you thought might be the one at the 6-week mark, 8-week mark, it just kind of like goes back and forth to me. So, Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I gotcha. So, explain a little more as far as, for example, the people that want the puppy that shows the most promise, or the puppy that's the toughest in a litter. What are some of the traits you look for when they're between 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks? As far as who you think, who's the champion of the litter? How do you look for that?
I look at the feistiness, how they play, who tries to be the most dominant. You even have that one quiet, she don't mess with nobody, boy, but if you come over there and mess with her, all hell gonna break loose. I look for those type dogs. I look for how smart they are, which ones come to me, which ones I throw something over there at them and see who investigates it, see who stays behind. I still do the penny shaking in the jug and see who's going to run off and who's going to stay and investigate. Them are my measurement sticks. Making little obstacles in a yard. Is they going to jump over it or get scared of it or try to go up the steps or, anything like that? Those things I pay attention to.
I gotcha. So what does your feeding regimen look like? What are you feeding?
So I feed kibble. Mm-hmm. I get my dogs a little bit heavier in the winter, but I don't. I go off, like I say, a body score. What the dogs needs to look like. Lean. I don't do any raw. I'm not against raw, but my poor ass can't afford it. But I do use raw every time for something. Mm-hmm. And that's my nursing mothers. Once those puppies on the ground, man, raw will make her bounce back like you won't believe. So I use a lot of raw for my nursing mothers. And things. I always have success doing it that way. And even my puppies, they'll be on a combination of raw and on kibble by the time they go home. And the puppies look great. They just, my wife, my wife and children do a tremendous job getting those pups ready.
So do you feed the dog? Do you feed the bitch raw while she's pregnant, or as soon as she drops the litter?
When she drops the litter. I'm giving her raw.
And you don't? Is it raw and kibble, or just raw?
Combination of both, but it's gonna be mostly raw. You know what I mean?
I had to write that one down. That's a good tip.
Yeah, I mean, just to me, they just bounce back so much because those puppies are taking a lot out of them.
Yeah.
And to me, every female I ever have had puppies from on a raw diet, they just do so much better. And that's to me.
Now, how about going back to feeding the puppies raw? Are they eating kibble and raw, or just raw?
Combination of both. What she would do is soften kibble and would just give them that. We would do the little, milk replacement and goat milk and stuff. It making them shit everywhere. But it was kind of a mixture of raw. Where she might just put a little kibble in there and everything. And about the time we get them home, we try to make it easier on the new people to access kibble, so they'll be fully on kibble when it's about time to go home. But it does wonders for the pups too. Making them coat shine and everything. You're right.
Very cool. I like that. Is there any kind of supplements you use?
Yeah, it's one supplement I use probably every other day. It's called is it NutriPro? NutriPro. It's like some granules powdered, you can put over their food. Actually, I saw a guy had taught me about that he feeds only raw. But this NutriPro, he would pour on top to give the dog all other essentials they need in a diet. That's all he uses. Raw and Nutrisource powder. So I kind of picked that up from him and used the Nutrisource powder every other day. My dog's coats look great, and it's also good for joint health and all that stuff. So, yeah, I like it.
I gotcha. Now, as far as pregnant and nursing females, is there anything else you do differently outside of the feeding?
No, I wouldn't say I do anything differently. Just when only thing about the second trimester, or however you put it, when they the last month, she coming in. She come in a lot more. I started getting her acclimated, which ain't very hard. I bring my dogs in. I know a lot of people still do outside. It's just easier for me to do in. I can regulate the temperature. I can get to them easier. Just turn my whole garage into a welcome center. You know what I mean? Right. And I got cages with welcome boxes in them, and we'll just walk them or let them run out in the bag when they need to be. But I definitely bring them in. I don't do a lot of exposure until about I say about 5 weeks. But I just do a lot of things to prep for that, man. I try to keep my yard clean. I treat my yard like I don't use flea and tick meds ever. And I can take one of my dogs to the vet, and then they won't have a worm. Period. Heartworm never. But I do more preventative stuff than waiting until stuff to happen. So
what do you
treat
your yard with?
What do I do my yard with? So the number one thing people need to know is how disinfectant works. Most disinfectant, you need to read the back of the bottle. I use some stuff called Hall, but I own a cleaning company, so it shouldn't be hard for you to get as well. Some people use Wiz-U-Wash. When you use this stuff, look at the back of the label and make sure it doesn't have what is the claim. I guess what I'm trying to say, some of this stuff will rush your kennels, so be careful. Corrosiveness. It might say on the back of the bottle that, this product is corrosive. But when you read the back of the bottle, make sure it has a kill claim of parvo, right? Make sure it claims to kill it. And the one of the main factors people forget about is in order for a disinfectant to work, it usually takes 10 to 15 minutes dwell time. Not go spray it in there and then rinse it right off. It has to dwell on a surface, especially a non-porous surface, for 10 to 15 minutes. So being that the ground is not a non-porous surface, the way I deal with that is I will go disinfect the yard in the early morning when the dew is on the ground, because that will help it remain wet for that 15-minute kill time I need. And so that's how I do that. But I just do a lot of preventive maintenance to stop problems. If the guys who've ever dealt with parvo and how they could be, man, it's just, you want to stay on top of things. I don't use a lot of flea and tick medication. I don't use any. I treat my yard with granules, like stuff you can get from Home Depot, Lowe's, right before the season starts. And then, I treat my house around the borders and everything with, concentrates that kill everything, like spiders. Spiders can be a problem, biting dogs. You can go to some kennels, show up the damn dogs head swole up on the side. You got to prevent these things.
Mm-hmm.
And horse spray is something I use. You can go to a lot of feed stores. They might have a horse spray that lasts 2 weeks on your dog, keep fleas, ticks, and flies off of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not. I mean, I don't hug trees, but I don't. I just don't got to use a lot of chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
So when I worm, every 3 months, I mean, everything's working hand in hand. I just do a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I gotcha. What does your kennel setup look like?
Well, I used to have them in runs with gravel.
Mm-hmm.
I hated that. I hated the mud. I hated the flies. I hated that so bad. So what I did, and it's another guy from Arkansas, my state. He's known for dropping off kennels he makes. And I forget his name. I would shout him out if I could remember his name. Pretty popular dude. I get mine up off the ground. Like I built a stage for a 6-run kennel. I mean, it's expensive, brother.
Mm.
All that wood, but getting them up off the ground is so much nicer.
Mm.
It is so much nicer. And then if I don't, the dogs, then I got a couple individual stages where I set these kennels on, and but off the ground is so much better for me. Mm-hmm. Getting them out the mud and things like that. And then, but that's pretty much my kennel setup. I think me and you was talking about Lee Robinson, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the other day, right? So the roofing system he has, like you could just go to a metal roofing company, get the measurements, and put that on top of your kennels, secure them on top of your kennels. So that's what I have on mine for to keep the sun off of them. Just a regular water jugs with the clips where they can't knock them over, and things like that. That's what I do.
I gotcha. So if you had to pick any other breed that you're interested in, what is it?
That's a good one. Probably the giant schnauzer, because I've heard I hear a lot of a couple of trainers tell me how versatile they are. You got to do that maintenance on them. Mm-hmm. They say, man, this dog can do anything. Anything. I was like, what? So I am interested in one of those. But what scares me is the all that haircutting and stuff.
Yeah.
And then probably the Borbal. I probably want to know a little bit about the Borbal, see what that's like.
Borbal is an incredible dog, I could say from experience.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, they're definitely they're very, very different. And they can the main thing I noticed about the differences in the Borbal is they can get along with a pack. Mm-hmm. That's not always the case with a lot of the Mastiff breeds. Now here's an interesting question. If you got to a point where you've seen areas that could be improved on by outcrossing to either your Corsos or your Shepherds, I guess I'll ask for both, what breed would you choose?
I'll answer this like this. I wouldn't use any breed for outcrossing because I'm going to tell you why. This is going to be controversial. This is going to be controversial. Mm-hmm. Because I was taught if you outcross, you want the dog to look as much alike phenotypically, have some of the most, have a lot of the similar traits. But what I was taught, when you outcross, you either making a hybrid vigor dog, you just trying to make a badass dog, right? So I'll put it this way. If I was to outcross on any dog, it's just to make a badass dog, a hell of an athlete. But if I'm just staying within my breed, I wouldn't outcross. I'll be very careful about outcrossing, but if I was staying within the same breed, outcrossing to me looks like I'm undoing all the work I already put in, because I'm adding all his new blood into my line. That's to me.
That makes sense.
But definitely, if I'm gonna make a badass dog, that I'm looking for performance and a band dog, if you would. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna put the two. I'm gonna put the. You know what I would do if I was making a band dog? I would find the two baddest pure dogs I could, and I'll put them together. That's what I would do.
And then what? If you were choosing two breeds, what would they be?
If I was making a band dog, okay. Boy, you hitting me today with these questions. Okay, let's see here. Man, well, that's a tough one. You really caught me off guard on that one. But I would put it this way. I would want a dog similar to what Lee has done. That's Mr. Robinson. Another mentor of mine, Gypsy. I like the Gypsies and all those guys mix when they made a dog that their vision was about. I want a dog that's good around my kids, gonna watch my house. Ain't nobody gonna let my body run on my wife. So whatever breeds that make that, but just right off the top of my head, it'll be hard. I had to think about it. I might even think about that. I will probably have that dog probably had to include a little pit bull. You know what I mean? I at least know that much.
Right. The Canis Panther, right?
Yeah. Gypsy had the Canis Panther. Yeah. I thought that was cool. And his wife, she's still living, and I think she's still doing it, and other people too.
Yeah. What is your favorite registry and why?
I use the AKC, but when you talking about, see, that's going to bleed over into pedigrees. When I believe, I just had this conversation with somebody actually. I believe more so in the man more than the pedigree. Like I like what you're doing because you showing and improving. Like these dogs do that, and when it comes to the registry, it's just to hold my records basically. You know what I mean? But for the past, what the dogs are really about or what they can do, you can't see that.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't see all that. So I wouldn't say I have a favorite registry, but of course, the registry I use is AKC.
So when it comes to your Corsos, you haven't sent me the photos yet. Do you have or have you produced blue dogs?
Man, that's the number one. That's the number one dog I produce because both of my females are blue.
Now that leads me to another question. I noticed in the bull breeds, I got lucky. I didn't. My girl Zuma doesn't have any of these issues, but in a lot of the bull breeds, they have a lot of skin issues that are associated with the blue coat. Does that happen to your dogs at all?
Yes and no. In puppies, especially newborn puppies, if you are washing those blankets and things like that you're using doing whelping in regular detergent, it's gonna cause an allergic reaction. You gotta get that sensitive skin detergent. But for skin issues in my females, no, I have no skin issues. But I have seen skin issues with people who breed dilute to dilute. That ain't something I'll do.
Mm-hmm. Would you consider a seal dog to be dilute?
Say it again.
Like a black seal dog, would you consider that to be a dilute?
You talking about the seal that got the red kind of like tint popping out the coat is what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Good question. Woo. Eric, boy, you something else, brother. Man, I don't know. I would consider a blue or gray dog to be a dilute of the black.
Right.
I'm not sure about the seal.
I gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So, what advice would you give new breeders or new people that wanted to get involved in, namely, well, I'd say both, the Corso and the Shepherd? What advice would you give new people wanting to get involved, and what advice would you give to people who wanted to breed?
It's a term that floats around the dog world that says, do your research. Do your research, do your research. Really, if you don't know anything about dogs, it might take you a year to really figure out where you need to go. But you got to ask questions. You got to look online. Fortunately, things are changing. You will have to go to Facebook, ask questions. People might jump down. What you breed for? We don't need you in the breed.
Yeah.
And all this shit. But fortunately, you got channels like Eric's. You got channels like mine where you can actually hear things, hear interviews, see real dog men, hear them, and get a good rapport before you do anything. Because you might not want to breed, because guess what? You ain't gonna have a lot of time. Mm-hmm. Vacation's almost out the door. Yep. When you're breeding dogs, especially if you get over 4, because trying to board them, man, it gets expensive. So, but I would just say the number one thing is to be very patient. That's what I've been told. Be very patient. If that breeder don't want to court your breeder, that breeder don't want to ask every question you seem like a big nuisance and they try to run you off. What is it now? You know what I'm saying? But don't waste a man's time if you're not going. If you know you just window shopping, quit asking him 100,000 questions. You know you're not going to buy. Mm-hmm. But if you stop that person, that man that you finally hone in on, and make it a few of them, don't waste his time. You just take me through the process and make him teach you things as you go along, and ask him, hey man, look, is this lifetime support? Because this is something I want to do, and I want to do it right. You know what I mean? Those are things you should be kind of honing in on. Now, when you come to a specific, it's easy for me to tell you who to go to or who's great that I know in the shepherd dogs, situated shepherd dogs. Like I said, that's Neiman Patrick and that's Daniel Nash. The Corso is a very splintered dog. It is a very splintered dog. There's so many different sects to this dog. You really want to know, what is your purpose? What are you trying to do? What kind of dog are you trying to? Actually, it's my brothers actually trying to differentiate the style of dog that's Italian from the American style dogs. And I think they've tried to collect some Italian dogs to be the DNA done on. That's brother Kevin, and that's brother Brian, they're trying to work on that to differentiate the styles of Corsos, because of course there's a bunch of different temperaments and things like that. But you better know your purpose. You better know it.
Mm. So what are your plans? What is your vision for the future?
So I plan to just start just locking in on more of the traits I want. I was fortunate enough to get a good start having a relative that was already in the breed and high up in the breed and just know the breed, to where I was able to get some really solid dogs for him and Tony Scandy and whatnot. But my overall plan is for these dogs is to get in the area I am to be able to put them on homesteads, farms, to be utility versatile dogs, and things of that nature.
I gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything you wanted to touch on before we wrapped up?
Oh shit, what happened? Oh, my signal got weak. Are you there, Eric?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for letting me come on, and like I told you before, man, the work you have done won't ever be touched. The catalog you have, and I'm kind of following behind your footsteps a little bit in a different way, where I kind of interview people too. Mm-hmm. We kind of hone in on different subjects. We might talk about hips one episode. We might talk about nutrition one episode.
Where can people find you?
Oh, okay. So anywhere online, just look up N.W.A. Connie Corso. Anywhere online, YouTube, anywhere, you'll see me.